Okay, today we're talking about decimals and fractions. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking decimals and turning them into fractions. But before we do that, I need to remind you about the place value of decimals. So if I have the decimal 0.125, it's really 125 thousandths. I need you to remember what the place values are. And it's been a little while, so let's just remind you that this one is in the tenths place. Okay, that's the tenths place. The 2 is in the hundredths place. And the 5 is in the thousandths place. And you just spell it thousand like you normally do, just thousand, and add THS. Okay, so those are our three place values. And remember that the 0 here, this is the this side here going that way of the decimal. These are the whole numbers, okay? So that's why we have the ones place here, because we have whole numbers on this side, okay? And then the whole rest of the side going this way is all the decimals. It's the parts of the numbers, okay? So we don't have any ones on this side of the decimal. That's why we start with the tenths, all right? So what you're going to remember is when we change in a decimal to a fraction, if the decimal is here where the 1 is, okay, in the tenths place, and that's how far it goes out, you're probably going to put a 10 on the bottom. If it goes to the hundredths place, you're going to put 100 on the bottom of the fraction. And if it goes to the thousandths place, you're going to put 1,000 on the bottom of the fraction. So let's try one that's in the tenths place first so you can get the idea. So if I do 0.3, I'll notice that the 3 is in the tenths place, okay? So I'll put the 3 on top of the 10 because it's in the tenths place. And you even read this, you're supposed to read this as 3/10. You're not supposed to say 0.3. It's 3/10 because the 3 is in the tenths place. So that's how you do it when it's in the tenths place. How do you do it when it's in the hundredths place? Well, what if it's 0.13? Now this went out to the hundredths place. It's 13 hundredths because it goes out. There's two decimal places. This is the tenths and this is the hundredths. So you're going to put the 13 over 100. Remember that there's however many places you have here is how many zeros goes down here. So the tenths place has 1 0 and the hundredths place has 2 zeros. 1, 2, just like that. So the zeros should match up with how many places there are. Okay. Well, let's try one in the thousandths place. 0 and 328 thousandths. Okay. How many places are there? There's 3. Remember the tenths, the hundredths, and the thousandths. So we're going to put the 328 on top of 1,000. And notice there are 3 decimal places here. So we have 3 zeros here. All right? That's how you change it from a decimal to a fraction. Now the problems in your book, they're going to want you to change them to a fraction, and you're going to have to change them to simplest form. So let's do the first one in your book. We're going to call this number 4. It's number 4 in your book on page 392. And the problem is going to be 0.6. All right? Now 0.6, we're going to change that. That's in the tenths place. See how that's 1? It's 1 behind the decimal. So you need to write 6/10. Okay? And in the other ones we were done because they were already simplified. But in this one, we can simplify this fraction. It's not the lowest fraction that you can make. So you need to think of a number that you can divide both of these by. And you can divide them both by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Is this number in lowest simplified form? Yes. It's in simplified form. So you can just, that the answer is 3/5. So you go from the decimal to the fraction, and then you simplify it. Number 5 is 17 hundredths. Notice it goes out 2 places. So in this case, we're going to put the 17 on top of 100 because it's 17 hundredths. Notice there's 2 places, so I put it over 100 that has 2 zeros. Can I simplify this? Is there anything I can divide these both by? All right, let's think about that for a minute. What goes into 17? Well, the only really thing that goes into 17 is 1 and 17. And if it only has 2 factors, do you remember what that is? 2 factors is prime. So if it's a prime number, it's already simplified. So we're done. You don't need to do all this division and stuff. All right? You would just leave it 17 over 100. All right? Let's try number 6. Number 6 is 0.125. Now this goes out to 3 places. So you're going to write the number 125. You're going to put it over 1,000. Now this is where it's going to get a little trickier because guess what? This is not simplified. So I'm going to write this down a little lower. You might have room on your paper to just keep writing beside it. But I'm going to write it down here so you can see how to do this. What can I divide both of these numbers by? Well, some of you will think 5. 5 is good. But I like to think of money when I like to do this. Okay, I like to divide this by 25 because I am pretty good with quarters, and most of you guys are too. You guys know how many quarters are in different things. 25 cents, all right? So we're going to divide these by 25. So we're going to imagine that this is really $1.25, all right? And I bet you some of you can think of how many quarters are in $1.25. Okay? How many quarters are in $1.25? Well, $1 has 4 quarters, right? So $1.25 is going to be 5 quarters. So $1.25 divided by 25 is 5. Okay? Now what's 1,000 divided by 25? Well, that's kind of like $10. Okay? All right, so if I had $10 here, all right, each of these dollars are going to be worth how many quarters? All right? Every single one of those dollars is going to be worth 4 quarters. 1, 2, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, $10 here. And each one of these are going to be worth 4 quarters, right? $1 worth 4 quarters. So basically 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. All of them are 4. How many 4s do I have? Well, I have $10. So what's 10 times 4? Well, 10 times 4 is 40. So that means there's 40 quarters in this. So it's 40. So you say, oh, yay, that's simplified. Is it simplified for sure? Or is there something else you can divide it by? Well, you can divide these both by 5. All right? So if we're going to divide by 5, 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 40 divided by 5 is 8. Now that is simplified, okay? 125 thousandths is actually equal to 1/8, and it is a simplified fraction when you make it 1/8. Now that one was a tricky one. Let's try another one, only let's make an easier one. This one is talking about, let's try, it's number 7. It's talking about raining 0.68 inches of rain last night. And we need to make that lowest, simplest form. Now we're going to notice that it has 2 places, all right? And so that means that we have to write it on the 68 on top of 100. Now, is that in simplest form? No, I'm sorry, but it's not. And this one might be a little harder because I know some other numbers might go into it, but what you're going to try is you're going to first divide it by 2 because you do know that they're both even. So you're going to have to do a little bit of division, so just underneath, go ahead and write your division problem. We're going to do 68 divided by 2. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 times 3 is 6. You subtract and get 0. Bring down the 8. And then how many times does 2 go into 8? 4 times. 2 times 4 is 8. There's no remainder, so the answer is 34 on top. And 100 divided by 2 is 50. Okay? is it simplified? No, it's not simplified yet. So we need to divide it again. I'm going to erase this part. And we're going to give you a little bit of room so you can divide it again. So I'm going to write 34 over 50 underneath here one more time, and we're going to divide it again. What can we divide it again by this time? Well, this time we can divide it by 2 again. What is 34 divided by 2? Well, it's 17. If you didn't know, you might have to go ahead and do that division problem. 34 divided by 2, it goes in there once. Bring down the 4. 2 goes into 14 7 times, so it would be 17. All right? So 34 divided by 2 is 17, and 50 divided by 2, most of you know that because that's quarters, 50 cents. If you cut 50 cents into 2 pieces, it ends up being 25, right? 2 quarters is 50 cents. So 17 25ths, and that is in lowest terms because 17 is a prime number. All right, let's do one more. And this one's going to be a different kind of a fraction, a decimal. It's going to be, we'll call this number 8. It's not in your book, but I'm going to give this one to you anyway. What do you do if it's 0.05? Now that's a little tricky because the 5 goes out to the 2 places, so it needs to be over 100. All right? So you're going to put 5 over 100, and we simplify it. So we divide both of them by 5. Divide both of them by 5. And we get 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 100 divided by 5 is 20. So it's 1/20th. One more, this is your last one. How do you do it if it's 0.007? All right, well, remember, it went out 3 places. So I'm going to put the 7 on top of what? Something with 3 zeros. So it needs to be 1,000, because this is the thousandths place. Remember, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So we made it thousandths place. Is this one already simplified? Yes. 7 is a prime number. The only thing that goes into that is 1 and 7. So it is prime. All right, so the idea is to take the decimal. Remember how many places you counted. You put it on top of either 10, 100, or 1,000, and then you make sure you always simplify the fraction, even if it's a little tricky.